Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Green and Sustainable Working Group webinar, which is held by Finnish PPW. Thank you, Päivi. Welcome, Hilma. It's so nice that you found the time to come to share your experience and a little bit about our group, that you will know who we are. So around 4 years ago, we were gathering together and we decided that in business professional woman should be also the voice for the Mother Earth, who is also woman. And we created this working group. And our aim is to raise awareness how to make our own life as more sustainable as possible and as green as possible in our personal lives, in our organization, in our PPW, and how to spread the word. And it is a very joyful moment to say to everyone here who I'm seeing from our green team that our work was accepted by PPW presidents last Saturday in Rome. Was it last Saturday? Yes. The PPW presidents accepted the green resolution, what we prepared almost all these years. And so it is very big step for our working group, and I think to our people and sisters as well. So, but Hilma, let's go to you now. Could you please introduce yourself and share us your experience? We are very keen to listen it. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you to BPW for inviting me to present my master's thesis. So my name is Hilma Leppiojaga, and I'm here to present to you my master's thesis, which was about the material footprint of Flow Festival 2022. First, you can see my screen well, right?
Yes.
Yes. First, a little bit about background. So I graduated last year from master's program in agriculture, environmental and resource economics, environmental and resource economics being my major. My bachelor's degree was in environmental and food economics, and my studies has included economics as well. My master's thesis was about Flow Festival 2022, and my bachelor's thesis was about the emission trading system in the European Union. A little bit about my work experience. Currently, I work in a company called Innovatics Ltd. I work as an AGM operator. Then I have also background in communications. I have worked in Bank of Finland communications from 2022. I started there in the Bank of Finland Museum and then continued to the Bank of Finland communications. My master's thesis was conducted together with DMAT Ltd, where I worked from 2022 to 2023. And then also I have been a diving coach since 2011. My hobby when I was younger was also diving, and therefore I started coaching it as well. You can find my LinkedIn from the bottom from the name Hilma Leppiojaga, and I have also linked my master's thesis and also a report that I was involved with the Flow Festival's carbon and material footprint. And today's agenda. So first I'll go through a little bit of background of the festival and the subject as a whole, and I will present the research questions to you. Then I will go through the material footprint, and then from the results, I'll give an overview of the footprints of food and beverages and visitors. And finally, I will for this thesis, we sort of launched some sustainable solutions which aim to decrease the carbon and material footprint. So I will present some of the sustainable solutions we invented to you. And then finally, I hope there is some time for questions and discussion. And please, every time you want to, you can ask me a question. So I'll try after each slide, I'll maybe try to take a few seconds break, so you will have time to ask if you want to. You can, on my behalf, you can just unmute yourself and you can ask. So I think that's nice that if there will be discussion, then it's nice for me too. So about the background about Flow Festival itself, it is a festival that is held in Helsinki in August, and Flow Festival has calculated their carbon footprint since 2009, but in 2021 a new research project was launched together with Flow Festival and DMAT, where I was working. And the goal was to kind of extend the research so that we would also calculate the material footprint and also sort of calculate the carbon footprint a bit better, a bit more broader. And well, as a tiny motivation behind the research of the thesis was what Siri said about individuals kind of carbon footprint, or individuals, that we should be greener, and all human activities, including going to a music festival, causes emissions and has an impact on the material footprint of individuals. But I don't think that means that all activities, music festivals or other events should be cancelled, but rather we should be researching how to make them more sustainable. And also in the Paris Agreement from 2015, there is a point there is a goal to decrease the use of natural resources by decreasing the use of materials. Here are my research questions. So the first one was that how large was the total material footprint of Flow Festival 2022? And the second is that which factors contribute the most to the total material footprint of Flow Festival 2022? So about the material footprint. The material footprint, just a second, I having trouble with my screen. You see my screen, all right?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So the material footprint, it aims to identify the natural resource consumption, and it aims to kind of like identify also the general human pressure on nature. So all of our individuals' actions, we have a material footprint. So we consume sort of natural resources, and the material footprint aims to identify it. When we are calculating the material footprint, we are taking into account the whole life cycle of a product. For example, if we're calculating the material footprint of a certain product, then we are taking into account the whole life cycle, from the mining, for example, the production, and all this stuff. And the material footprint, it focuses on the inputs. So comparing to the carbon footprint, which might be a bit more familiar term, the carbon footprint focuses on the emissions, so on the outputs, and material footprint focuses on the inputs, on the natural resources. And the material footprint is divided into biotic and abiotic resources. The biotic is basically renewable resources, and abiotic is a non-renewable resources such as fossil fuels. And many festivals has calculated their carbon footprint, and Flow Festival had calculated their carbon footprint since 2009, but in Finland, the material footprint has not been calculated for any other festival than Flow Festival now in 2022 and 2023. And the way the material footprint is calculated, it is calculated by multiplying the amount of material by a specific material intensity factor. So if I give you an example of a festival tent, there is aluminium and PVC plastic, in our cases at least. And so first we had to identify what was mass of both materials, how many kilograms we had aluminium and how many kilograms PVC. And each of these materials had their own specific material intensity factor, which were given to us by Wuppertal Institute based in Germany, which had been calculating the intensity factors. So if one tent has certain amount of aluminium, it's multiplied by the aluminium's material intensity factor, and same is done to the PVC plastic. However, the tents used in the Flow Festival does not own them. They are often rented, as for almost all festivals, they rarely own their own tents or stages or other products. So that's why we made this usage by flow factor, which tells which of the material footprint is allocated to Flow Festival. So for example, with the tents, if we calculated the material footprint of a tent, the whole material footprint of the tent is not allocated to the Flow Festival, but we had to first identify what is the life cycle of the tent and how many times it used in a year, for example. And there we got a percentage. For the tents, it was somewhere between 2 and 3, and then we multiplied the material footprint of the tent by the usage by flow factor, and from that we got the allocated material footprint to the festival. I hope that was understandable. Yeah, and about the data. So the data of the research includes the consumption data of the festival, which consists all the products and services consumed in the festival or by the festival. All the stages, all the machines that were needed to build all the stages, waste, food, every product that were consumed in the festival. And the consumption data was quite large, and therefore we divided them into 9 categories. So first we had a site production, which is basically all the infrastructure that was in the festival site. Some machinery, also the tents, fences, stuff like that. And then the stage production, and that includes all the stages, the main stages in the festival. And they include, well, the stage structures, then possible canvases, but also the technical products, including LED screens or speakers or fog machines, everything you can imagine. And partners production was mostly the transportation, like the sea and land freight of the partners. Properties there were buildings in the festival area. It includes them. Then organizational logistics. It included all the flights, for example, artist flights, then also different charter flights. And consumption includes water consumption, energy, fuel consumption, and also waste management. And food and beverages category includes all the foods and beverages that were consumed by the visitors, artists, and staff. And the visitor category included all the travels and accommodation by the visitors. And finally, other category included, for example, decoration and merchandise. And also the intensity data, that is basically the material intensity factors that I talked before, and they were mostly provided by Wuppertal Institute. Okay. Here is the summary of the findings. I hope you can see the table all right. There on the heroes of all the categories, and then the material footprint of each category, tons per festival. And also there is the material footprint, kilograms per visitor per festival. And that means there were 48,000 unique visitors in Flow Festival 2022, but most of them were there 2 or 3 times. So there were kind of 90,000 visitor days that were in the festival. So what we got from the material footprint kilograms per visitor per festival is that we divided the material footprint of side production by 90,000, and that is 2 kilograms. 2 kilograms, yeah. And the total material footprint of the festival was about 7,800 tons. And the visitor is by far the largest contributor to the footprint, which was 5,712 tons. And other relevant categories are food and beverages, properties, and state production. So the total material footprint was 7,800 tons, and it comes to 86 kilograms per visitor per festival. And 86 kilograms is about the same amount that an average Finn kind of like consumes natural resources per day. So for an average Finn, material footprint per day is about 86 kilograms. Are there any questions in the chat, or are they? I'm seeing some notifications. Are they questions or just?
Not yet, Hilma, not yet.
Yeah. And here are the results in a pie graph as well. And there you can see the visitors category is about 73% of the total material footprint. If we look at the visitors more closely, as I said before, the visitor category include the accommodation and travels of the visitors. And to get a look how they travel to the festival area, etc., a study was conducted, or like a tiny survey more, and the survey came to the visitors in the Flow Festival app. So there was an app for the festival that was many of the visitors' phones, and when you open the app, questions popped to the phone. I'm not sure about the technical specifics about it, and one of the most important questions was, how did you travel to Helsinki? And the options were by train or by bus, by plane, or that I live in Helsinki. And another important was that, how did you travel to the festival area? By a taxi or public transport, by walking, stuff like that. And from that, we got a pretty good understanding. I think there were about 1,700 responses to the questions. So we got a pretty good understanding of the visitors' behavior. And the visitor category, it accounts for 73% of the total material footprint, and which means that it is the largest contributor to the material footprint. And the reason behind why the visitor category is the largest contributor is basically the travels and the transportation of both domestic and international visitors. But one important one, which we'll be discussing later, is that Flow Festival cannot, or the festival organizer cannot really have an impact how the visitors are behaving. They can maybe try to influence it, but not directly, but we'll talk about them more in the sustainable solutions part. Then about the food and beverages. So the food and beverages category includes the consumption of food and beverages of visitors, artists, and staff. And red meat or poultry were not offered at all in the Flow Festival 2022. And all the food venues that were in the festival were required to have at least one vegan portion in their menu. And that was the first time that was done was in 2022. And when the red meat was removed from the menus, the carbon footprint of food per visitor was reduced by almost 50%. Now here are some graphs about the food. The material footprint of the food was 570 tons, and 51% of that came from the visitors' food. So you can see on the left chart or graph, and 43% came from visitors' beverage, and then 5% and 1% from the artists and crew and staff. And for the food, we calculated also the to calculate the material footprint of all the food and beverages consumed. We sort of made these vegan portions, fish portions, and vegetarian portions, and we calculated the material footprint for each portion. And then we multiplied it by the consumed food portions. We got from the Flow Festival, we got data which told that there were X amount of vegan portions sold during the festival. And that's how we got these numbers. And if you look at the right graph, is the visitors' food divided to vegan portions, vegetarian portions, and fish portions. And 40% of all the 40% of the visitors' food material footprint came from vegan portions, 27% from fish portions, and 33% from vegetarian portions. And the individual material footprint of each portions were that for vegan portion, the material footprint is about 2 kilograms per portion. For vegetarian, it's 2.7. For fish, it's 3.2. And for reference, for a portion that includes red meat, it would be 4.8 kilograms. And if we go to the sustainable solutions, so the sustainable solutions were developed to either decrease the use of materials in the festival or kind of like decrease the intensity of the materials. And with the sustainable solutions, there is some like material reduction potential, so that the material footprint can be decreased with these sustainable solutions. We have sustainable solutions for visitors category, for food and beverages category, and also for the stage production category. And the first sustainable solution is to encourage visitors to travel more sustainably. Second one is to increase the vegan and vegetarian options. And the third one is to reduce the material needed for or number of stage. And in this table, on the left, there is the sustainable solution. On top, there's the footprint reduction potential. And on the right, reduction of Flow's total material footprint. So the first sustainable solution on behalf of visitors is that 50% of car driving in Finland would be switched to bus or train. And that would mean that the people who came to Helsinki for the festival, 50% of them who came by car would switch to bus or train. And the material footprint reduction potential would be 170 tons, which would mean about 2.2% of the total material footprint. A second sustainable solution for visitors is that 50% of taxi and car rides inside Helsinki would be switched to public transport, so that the people who travel to the festival area by taxi, 50% of them would switch to public transport. And with that, there would be a footprint reduction potential of 143 tons, which would be about 1.8%. And here are sustainable solutions for food and beverages. And in this and the next one, the sustainable solutions for the stage production, this, when we're looking at the reduction, the percentage reduction, the visitor category is excluded from it, because then we will, by this we will get a better understanding of the kind of like the potential of the reduction. But first sustainable solution regarding food is that the festival would be full vegan, and there would be 55 tons footprint reduction potential, which would be, without excluding the visitor category, it would be 2.7%. And the second one is that 50% of alcoholic beverages would be switched to soft drinks. And that would mean reduction potential of 41 tons, which would be 2%. And finally, sustainable solution for stage production. The first solution is that there would be 20% less structures. For example, regarding the main stage, that it would be lighter, it would be not that heavy. And there would be 43 tons reduction potential, which would be 2%. And another one is that there would be 20% of less electrical appliances. So all the electrical appliances, all the technical products, they are not that heavy, but they have tiny bits of very material intensive materials. For example, gold or magnesium or something like that. So if there would be 20% less electric appliances, it would have a footprint reduction potential of 19 tons. We would be about 1%. Before I tell about kind of like current affairs that have been in discussion in Finland. Is there any questions in the chat?
There aren't any questions in the chat,
Yeah.
but I'm beginning to think that cutting alcohol by 50% at a music festival may not be your most popular suggestion. So I'll let you carry on while I
Yeah.
ingest that one.
Yeah, it is. I think there was when we kind of launched the report. So there's a report done by with DMAT and Flow Festival, and which included the material footprint and the carbon footprint. So my thesis is only about the material footprint, but the report was kind of like extended version. So we presented it and launched the report. I think there was some discussion about the beverages, but I think the conclusion was that there are some effects that, like some solutions that had greater impact. So maybe we can enjoy beer in festivals.
In the UK today on Sky News, the Formula One world champion Sebastian Vettel was on, and they were asking about the sustainability of Formula One and the festivals that go on around that. And he has been pictured litter picking at the end of a Formula One circuit weekend, because he's trying to set an example. And it just fitted very well with what you're talking about this evening.
Yeah.
And please let me know when you'd like the questions, whether you'd like some now or wait until the end.
Maybe we can wait until the end. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So about news that have been going on in the beginning of this year. So we calculated the material and carbon footprint of Flow Festival 2022, and now for 2023, Flow Festival has calculated both footprints again. And I am happy to tell you that both of the footprints were decreased. I think so. In 2022, the material footprint per visitor was 86 kilograms, and for 2023 festival it was 74.4 kilograms. So there was a tiny reduction in the material footprint, and one of the main reasons were that the main stage was lighter this year. So that was one of our sustainable solution for Flow Festival. And this year it was lighter. I'm not sure how much, but that was one of the main contributors why the material footprint last year was decreased. And also there were more like these vegan portions that were sold. So the proportion of the vegan portions were increased. And finally, there were less flight kilometers. So I think, yeah, there were less flight kilometers. But there was some discussion in February that one large festival in Finland called Provinssi Festival, they made an announcement that they will rent their food venue places to the restaurant cheaper if they are only vegan restaurants or vegetarian. And it caused, well, not a scandal, but a tiny scandal. And there were a lot of discussion that people were not happy with it. And this Atria that is mentioned in this headline over here, it is a food, like a meat company sort of, and they are in cooperation with the Provinssi Festival. And there was some discussion that how about the cooperation, but they reached to agreement on vegetarian food that cooperation will continue as previously was agreed. But there was a lot of discussion, but the fact is that the food venue places are a bit cheaper to the restaurants that are only selling vegan food or vegetarian food, comparing to the restaurants that are selling red meat or poultry. So, and the difference is not huge. But at most festivals in Finland, a vegan option for the restaurants is already a must. And at least, for example, Flow Festival is one of the festivals that do not offer red meat or poultry at all. And also another festival in Helsingi called Sideways, it has also the same policy, so no red meat or poultry. And I think they have been kind of like welcomed, okay, but in the province festival, it caused some discussion. And to summarize, the visitors, they have a very significant impact on the material footprint of festivals, especially because of their transport choices. So if they choose to come by a taxi, comparing to public transport, it can have a major effect. And sustainable solutions have been developed that can decrease the material footprint of the festivals. And one solution is to increase the amount of vegan food options. And there are increased interest in the sustainability of spare time activities or other activities, such as going to festivals or events. And it can be shown that many events, for example, there are headlines that music festivals in Finland are doing this to make their festival greener, and also in other places as well. Okay, so questions and discussion. I have some questions for you, but please, now it's time to ask questions if you have any.
Yeah, we've got a couple in the chat. Janet, would there be sufficient public transport to the festival to be able to do away with the private cars?
Yes, for Flow Festival, there is, because it's very in like the center, not the center of Helsinki, but it's very in a good place to travel with public transportation, comparing to other festivals that are not in Helsinki or are in some other smaller city and stuff like that. And there is usually the festival site is near a subway station, so usually it is done that the subway, because in Finland the subway does not go around the clock, it ends about 11 midnight or something like that. So usually when there is a festival near subway station, the subway goes like 2 hours longer, so that people would use the subway. And this is not a direct sustainable solution, but one thought that had been occurred when cooperation with Flow Festival and DMAT, that would it be possible to add like the public transportation ticket to the festival ticket, so that if you buy the festival ticket, then you get the public transportation ticket as well. So then you are maybe encouraged to use more public transport, comparing to taxi, for example. But after the festival, if you've been dancing for 8 hours, then you might take the taxi near the festival entrance and want to go rest. But yeah, thank you for the question. I hope I answered to it.
Carolyn has put a few questions in. So Carolyn, whether you want to unmute yourself and ask them yourself.
Thank you, Jo, and thank you, Hilma. I'm really interested in what you've put forward in your thesis, because I did one for my master's in the Sustainable Development Goals around design and build, so design and construction sector. And one of the things you talked about was a little bit about the carbon footprint, but the buildings that were there, are they temporary? Then are they reused? Has the carbon footprint been looked at in your calculations for those? Because the impact that they come to site, if they're transportable, what the costs were, if they're reused, and even if they're green buildings to start with. So that was one of my first questions. And then the second thing was, I've been a vegetarian since I was about 18. I made that conscious choice when I found out I was getting really sick. And but I do still eat chicken and fish a little bit. But doing this, one of the things that was said in the United Nations last month was there's a lot of pushback on a lot of things. So does this start to create another them and us, or does this start to create some pushback? Because the people spend quite a lot of money on the tickets for these festivals, and then they're told they're not allowed to have access to food. And I agree, Joe. I mean, in New Zealand now, we actually have events where there is no alcohol because they're family events. So, and everyone knows you cannot take alcohol. You still see people try and sneak it in. But I think there has to be some balance there. And I agree what you're trying to do around the carbon footprint, but we could also go too far the other way, and that creates a real pushback. So has that been considered when you did your research?
Hilma, can I just ask, before you answer those points, could you stop screen sharing so that we can all see each other, please, if you've finished your PowerPoint? That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So about the second question, I think it was shown that in the case of the province festival that I talked about in the current affairs, that it is like a hot topic, and there is a lot of discussion. There will be a lot of discussion when festival decides to do something to do with food. At least there will be probably more discussion if they would not offer alcohol. So that would be a bit more of a scandal maybe. But yeah, with the province, I think it's because they made it cheaper to the people who want to maybe act more green. So then it's cheaper to the restaurants to sell their food there. But yeah, I'm not sure about the kind of like the how is it to do with where we live, because in Helsinki it wasn't that much of a scandal, sort of, so to speak, when Flow Festival or the other festival called Sideways, that they decided not to offer meat or poultry. That was kind of accepted. So yeah, but it is an interesting topic that and it could be more to do with research. Are there kind of like these negative impacts, or is it kind of like a loss in the value if you buy the festival ticket and stuff like that?
Thank you, Hilma. I've got one from one of my members here, Judith Cook. Does forcing people to be vegans or vegetarians increase deforestation, e.g. for the production of soya beans?
Yeah. I have to say I'm not an expert on the soybean production, but I think that is a common thing people often think about. And well, one thing, at least in Finland, we also grow soy for the animals to eat as well. So it's also that there are vegetarian or vegan food is not emission free, obviously, and definitely if you would eat just local food that you would have grown yourself, there will be less impact on if you buy from the store. But on average, usually the for example, red meat and poultry, or at least red meat causes more emissions, and also like the kind of like the consumption of natural resources is often higher on average with that food.
Okay, so in British Columbia, this is from Margot, the majority of festivals are alcohol free and the police monitor this. So that goes back to what Carolyn says. Is there anyone that would like to raise their hand and ask a question on using the raised hand function on reactions? Not at the moment. If you all want to have a look at Siri's screen, she's currently modelling one of the Zoom backgrounds that she's created for Earth Day. And to download those, they're in the chat function. So if you want to have a look at that, there it is. Fantastic. Thank you, Siri. And if you want those for yourself, save the chat and the link is in there. Marie-Claude, your hand is up. Hi, Marie-Claude. Did you want to ask a question? You're on mute, sorry.
Sorry.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the invitation and also for the presentation, and congratulations. I would like to know if you could think of doing the same for the traveling of BPW around the world, so that we are also safe on this side with all the traveling done. Do you think you could do such a research? I think it would be very interesting and also quite sustainable.
Yeah, I will have to think about it. Yeah, but
Because it's the same, yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, and I hope, and
same
kind of like
approach.
yeah, and the goal of the research was that at least in Finland, that there will be now kind of like increased interest towards the subject, and it was the goal that the Flow Festival would be kind of like showing the way and stuff like that, and also that it would be easier to calculate it, and there, because now we have collected in 2022, or when the research project started in 2022, the data collection and the calculation took a lot of time, and now, but the data collection is done, and now there can be only like few modifications to the data if the data is changed. So then it's now easier to calculate it, and then therefore definitely, at least in Finland, we're hoping that more festivals would now calculate and maybe try to implement some sustainable solutions. Of course, these sustainable solutions that I now presented to you, they were specifically made for Flow Festival, but other festivals would maybe also be interested in those.
Marie-Claude, your question resonates completely with Siri and I, because it's something that this green group have been looking at. And if I hand over to Siri now, she can talk a little bit about the presentation that she did at the BPW European Presidents meeting that we were at in Rome last week. So Siri, do you want to say a few words about your presentation there?
Yes, I hope I remember all the slides, but last week we presented together the Green Business Professional Women Resolution. It means that there we were putting together the aim that how we as a BPW member should act and how we should think about all the events and things what we are organizing and doing, how we are minimizing our footprint. And the resolution itself is 2 pages, but there are some 25 pages of guidelines, what we can recommend how to decrease this footprint. So it soon will be available in BPW Europe webpage after we are getting contact with a new PR. I have been trying to catch her. Until then, the presidents and our green team has it in the email. And also I added here the link a little bit below 2031. If you watch the time, that if you want to get more information about in future webinars and about the green resolution, then please register it there. Then we will get your email and your consent that I can send you the emails, and I will share this resolution. And also in that resolution, we made the proposal that every BPW organization should have the green ambassador, the person who is the main contact between our team, it belongs to our team and shares the information. Also, not only sharing is caring, but also that she is the one or they are the ones who are following that all the events, merely we are organizing the events, are made based on those guidelines. So I really ask you to join with our green team. And this is the webinar after a long time, the first webinar, and we agreed with our green team that we will make them every quarter, at least one or maybe two. And thank you. Today there is so many people. I just noticed that 52 people has been registered. 38 were here at the beginning when we started. So it is so lovely to see that you joined and found the time to be there today. And
thank you, Siri. And one of the things that I can say to you, Marie-Claude, is that here in BPW UK, on our conference tick list, when we were looking at venues, it was on there for us to have a look. And we held our national conference at a hotel that had a gold green tourism award. And that was one of the things that was important to us on our selection criteria. But we even felt that whilst we were there was room for improvement. So I then held a meeting with the manager, and we explained some of the things that could be done to improve the performance that they have with us, the interaction, and how much greener they could be. Which is, he was completely surprised because he is meeting the criteria of a European award. So that's certainly one to watch. But Hilma, we've got another question here from Satu. Has the government or the EU set any restrictions for the footprint of festivals in Finland?
Do you mean that by that there should be like a limit that this is the maximum footprint and festivals cannot exceed that?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, just to kind of understand,
Yeah.
can festivals just do whatever they want, or is there some kind of restrictions at least?
Yeah. To my knowledge, it is like, I think there are some waste management stuff and probably something like that they cannot dump their waste wherever they want, for example. But on behalf of the footprints, I don't think there are like direct limits or anything like that. But as I said, like one of the Paris Agreement goals, for example, is that Finland's carbon footprint should be, I don't remember on the top of my head, but there will be less in 2030, 2050, 2100. So if we're going towards that, then of course some decisions should be made now, and therefore the festivals at least should try to take it into account, their own emissions, for example.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the floor, please? So the next question in the chat, Hilma, is Obviously, we have our International Congress in November this year. We have the BPW Europe Conference in Malta next year in May. And we wondered whether you would like to pass on any recommendations to the Green Group, specifically on these events, so that we can feed them up the line. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah. I think the Congress, well, some background there is BPW. You are like organizing it, or you're presenting?
Well, I think perhaps Siri and I could email you after this, and we can ask you some questions, and that would be really, really useful. Carolyn, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Jo. Yes, just to let everyone know, at the Leadership Summit, there was BPW Brazil are doing some amazing work. We know that Malta is going to be an event, and certainly having events in a Congress year does make some challenges. But one of the things they worked on is the metaverse. And so you can actually register, and you're like walking into the room and can see you have a seat. You're part of that space. That looks really good. I think if we look at doing online, really large online events, there needs to be some changes for that to be successful in how we operate in that space. And there's sometimes we need to be face-to-face. So I think it's really important. How can we look at what we do for our own environmental footprint? I know that sometimes when I travel, I'll buy carbon credits, so then that's going to offset what I'm doing. And then I also look at what I can do locally. I like to source. I try to always put some money back into the economy by supporting women artists. Helsingi, when I went to Congress there, and Tallinn, I brought some jewelry that was made by a woman artist and stuff. Not a lot, nothing too extravagant, but it was my way of giving something back. So I think we need to also look, when we're talking about sustainability, and I've been an environmental architect for probably 30 odd years. So to me, it is really important what we do, so that what we leave behind is really, we have the least impact. Now it is even more important what we do to protect our earth. And I think that is critical. And I like the discussions. So then I think it's that next level. And Congress, it would be nice if a Congress could all be online, but we've experienced some of those things, and I think we're not there yet. But I think if we can make sure the venues, and I agree with you, Jo, when we do an event, and I was part of WEPS here in New Zealand, they would only go to a venue that was a Green Star building, for example, or the food was sourced locally, or there was certain criteria. Even the drinks that we had were all sustainably made. So it's that sort of thing that at least we can start making some small impacts. And I think it's really good what you've shown, Hilma, because that's what you've done. You've looked at what we can take from the small impacts, and it starts with small steps. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you to say.
Janet, if you'd like to unmute yourself with the next question, please.
Yeah, it's not really a question as much to say that I was going to type it in to say, but small steps at a time are far more acceptable, and people will understand where you're going. Hilma's has set a very good ground zero for the work to carry on and to be gradually accepted, and gradual acceptance will change people's behaviour, I feel.
Yes.
Janet, whilst you're unmuted, I wonder if you could say what you gave to Siri when you came to our conference in Bristol.
Oh, well, when I was doing some turning out. My house was is disgraceful, really. But I was turning out some of the old BPW stuff, and there was an international magazine that used to be published called Widening Horizons, and it was dated 1990, so we're talking some considerable number of years ago. And the first article in the magazine was about how we should be looking after our environment, how we should be looking after our earth. And I just said to Siri, I don't think we've got on very far at the moment, do you? But at last, the mantle has been taken up, and people are realizing we've got to look after our environment and our earth, because otherwise, you know, we don't want to go back with the dinosaurs, do we? But I haven't done any more turning out since then, so
Oh, well, let's see what else
you might get some more.
Well, that would be fabulous, because it is part of our learning, it's part of our history and our understanding.
Yeah.
And some of those publications may well have some really good best practice in there for us to have a look at.
But it just shows how forward thinking the BPW ladies of the International Federation were in those days, that they knew something needed to be done. But it's taken a long time to get the momentum going.
Yes. Are there any other questions?
Thank you anyway.
Thanks, Janet. Karen, I see there's another one. What has the Environmental Standing Committee done? Are they engaged in this?
No, we haven't heard about them.
Does
Very
that answer your question, Carolyn?
simple answer.
Yes, it does. And yes, it sums it up. Thank you.
The BPW Green Group has been really active, and you can see by some of the things that Sarah's put into the chat. There is a fantastic song that BPW Estonia have shared with us as well, and that video is available on YouTube, isn't it, Siri?
Yeah, it's the I Am the Earth, the song. It is in English, it is in Finnish, it is in Estonian, it is going to be, I hope, in Italian and Spanish, as we discussed. We need to carry it further, and it is done also in Ukrainian. But in YouTube, you can find it, I Am the Earth, English version. I can put the link.
Yes,
here.
please, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
So I think if there's no other questions on this at the moment, Siri, would you like to finish up the meeting? Would you like to add any conclusions, please?
Yes, I will. I will put now the link to our song. Who hasn't been listening it, please take it from the chat. And for once, I'm putting the banner. So it is the official moment to launch this year Earth Day campaign. So tomorrow, every president and the Green Team members, and I hope I can send to you also who is participating today, will get the information and invitation to join with our campaign. The campaign is, as it has been 3 times before, this time it is the 4th time when we are organizing it, that every woman is giving a pledge to the Mother Earth, what they are going to make differently to take care of her this year, 2024, till 2025 at the same time. So, and there will be the materials attached, how you can put your name, your photo or your video with your pledge or write your pledge there. It is made in PowerPoint, so everyone can easily add there their face and their aims, and it can be shared as a photo or video in social media with with the hashtags Green BPW, hashtag Green Day, hashtag Earth Day, and so on. So I really hope you will take part of that campaign and that you are spreading the word all around the world. Last year, we managed to measure that we had a reach for 600,000. Maybe it was more, but this is the number what I managed to gather. I hope this year we are going more and more further, and we are spreading our message, because every day is Earth Day, but on Earth Day we need to tell it much louder than other days to remind it. So thank you, and I hope you like this this banner. This is this year vision of our Estonian designer Merle Koop, who has been doing amazing visual this year. But we have also very lovely visual from last year from Ross, and we can use all of them what has been done. But this is the inspiration for this year. So thank you for joining today. Every day is Earth Day, and let's keep in touch, and let's keep together.
Siri, can I ask if you would like to play the song to play us out? And then if people would like to stay on the call to hear the song, that would be really great. Thank you.
Now you think to share the song, yeah?
Yeah, I think if people would like to stay on the call and listen to it, it's a fantastic option for them to hear it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hilma.
One moment, I will
Absolutely.
open the link.
I can tell how important this subject is. I look down the line and see how many members there are from the.
This is a metabolism killer. This is a metabolism. And even
I'm hoping this is an ad, because it most certainly is not the Earth song, but here it is. Please sit back and enjoy.
I am the earth and the air I breathe. I am the earth in the waters. Earth in my heartbeat. I am the earth in the air I breathe. I am the earth in the water stream. I am the earth in the fire's heat. I am the earth in my heartbeat. I am the earth in the air I breathe. I am the earth in the water stream. I am the earth in the fire's heat. I am the earth in my heartbeat. I am the earth in her wildest seas. I am the earth in her springtime dreams. I am the earth in her falling leaves. I am the earth when moonlight gleams. I am the earth in her wildest seas. I am the earth in her springtime dreams. I am her falling leaves. I am the earth when I am the earth in the air I breathe. I am the earth, the water stream. I am the earth, I am the earth in my heartbeat. I am the earth in the air I breathe. I am the earth in the water stream.
I think that's probably given you a really good taste of the song. It would be really great if you would like to share that, especially on Earth Day. And I think that it certainly comes into you, doesn't it? It makes it really quite personal. So thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. And we look forward to seeing you at more of the green events coming up this year. Thank you. Thank you, Siri. Thank you very much, Hilma.
Thank
Fantastic.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Hilma. Thank you, everybody. It was a really nice evening.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you all for
Bye.
coming
Bye.
and listening to my presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Hilma.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad
Thank
that there was
you.
lots of discussion.
From Brazil, thank you.
Thank you, Päivi, for
Thank
watching.
you. From Finland.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.